Hello and welcome. Today's video, we're going to talk about the different types of pricing models, what they are, and what the difference is between them. Hello, I'm Crystal Little, CEO and founder of Paygent.ai. Paygent.ai is a software platform that analyzes transaction statements from payment processors to help small business owners truly understand what they're paying in credit card processing fees and how to make changes that allow for you to reduce those overall fees so that you're able to keep more of your bottom line. In today's video, like I said, we're going to talk about the different pricing structures. This is actually really important because depending on your business type, there may be one that is more beneficial to you, and there are going to be some that, quite frankly, are going to set you up so that you pay more in fees. This is all within your control, but the key is understanding what these differences are. So let's jump right in. So for starters, we're going to talk about why the pricing models are so confusing. So in general, there typically is 3 different pricing models that you're going to see in market. You have flat rate, which is a flat fee, which typically is a percentage rate of every transaction processed, and that is your total fees that you pay. You also have Interchange Plus, which means that the cost of interchange is passed through and the processor adds a markup on top of the interchange, which allows for them to capture revenue because, of course, they're in the business of making money as well. And then the last, and probably the most confusing out of all of these, is tiered pricing. So tiered pricing is a concept where if you accept certain types of credit card transactions, let's say, for instance, American Express. American Express has the most generous rewards program, which means that it has the highest fees. So if you take American Express, it may be a situation where your processing fees are going to be higher on Amex. Well, if you're taking Visa and MasterCard, it may be lower on Visa and MasterCard. And so the fluctuations between these different types of pricing models are what they consider the different tiers. Amex being a higher tier than necessarily Visa and MasterCard. The challenge with tiered pricing, and we'll get into this in just a moment, is that it's really hard to predict. And so when we think about what is going to work best for your business, not only is it a matter of what is the most cost-effective type of pricing model, but it's also about predictability, because as a business owner, you want to make sure that you understand how much money is coming in, because at the end of the day, that's your cash flow. And your cash flow is really important to keep your lights on, to keep your employees paid, and to allow for your business to maintain its healthy status. So let's go into one click deeper on these different 3 types so that you can better understand, and we'll talk a little bit about different businesses who may benefit from these as well. So we'll kick it off with flat rate pricing. As I mentioned earlier, it's a flat rate, except if your business is accepting cards that are different types of cards, your flat rate may be too high. And so a flat rate is set by the processor in order to capture all of the fees below it. They're not setting this rate because they think that you can have higher fees and they're going to lose business on you. Quite contrary to that is the fact that the flat rate is set just high enough that it allows for the processor to protect themselves so that any of the fees that are coming through are covered. So for instance, you have interchange, you have assessments, you have markup, you have all these different things that go into the fee. Well, that needs to be below that per flat rate price. Otherwise, the payment processor is eventually going to go out of business. You can't continue that for so long. And so you, as a merchant, you have to recognize that not all businesses make sense for a flat rate. And in fact, the businesses that benefit the most from flat rate are typically businesses that are card not present, because card not present has the highest interchange rates. And it's because the credit card companies and the card brands are unable to confirm that the card in your possession is physically there. If it was, you would swipe it or you would dip it and you would actually process that transaction as a card present transaction, which has a much lower interchange. So if you're a business, let's say you're an e-com business and you're doing a lot of transactions that are digital, then a flat rate processor actually makes a lot of sense for you because they're covering their costs, but your costs to do that transaction are pretty high. So even though they're covering their costs, your fees are pretty high relative to your flat rate pricing. So if you're a card not present business, flat rate makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about Interchange Plus now. So Interchange Plus, as I mentioned, is you're going to have your interchange amount, which is the amount of fees that you never get out of. Everybody has to pay interchange. It doesn't matter what pricing plan you are on, you are paying interchange. And so the difference, though, is instead of that markup being baked into the overall fee, Interchange Plus works where you have your flat interchange and then there's a margin added on top. What's really nice about this model is it is considered one of the most transparent because it allows for you to know that the fees you're paying are the raw fees for that transaction. And of course, the processor is going to mark it up, but this is a transparent way of them saying this is the markup. And so Interchange Plus can be, the markup can be actually on a per transaction basis. Let's say, for instance, it's a 10-cent per transaction and straight through pass through on interchange, then that is an Interchange Plus. Subscription models become really popular as well, where instead of it being the margin being added on the per transaction basis, it can be done as a subscription. And so you may pay $49 a month, you may pay $99 a month, you may pay upwards of hundreds of dollars a month, but it's for the benefit of being able to process that payment, and then your interchange is straight passed through. So the Interchange Plus model works really well for businesses who have a lot of card present transactions. Why? Again, I mentioned interchange is the lowest on card present because it is the least risky because you know you have a physical card there in front of you. And so Interchange Plus really works for businesses that are doing card present transactions where they know their interchange rate is going to be lower than a card not present. It can be businesses that do ACH heavy. So big businesses who do a lot of like high ticket dollar values, that would make a lot of sense for those organizations as well. And so depending, and hopefully you're seeing that depending on your business, the different type of models really can impact how much you're paying in fees, which ultimately go into your overall effective rate. So let's get into the last, and that's tiered pricing. I already mentioned conceptually what tiered pricing is, but again, it's a matter of, and just to repeat myself, it's a matter of having different types of pricing models for different types of tiers of transactions. So as another great example, you may have a different pricing model to pay for ACH. You may have a different pricing model in order to pay for American Express, like I mentioned. You may have a different pricing model for transactions over a different threshold. You may have a different pricing model once your overall volume reaches a certain amount processed. There's a lot of ifs with tiered pricing. There's a lot of potential for this, for that. And if you are an organization who potentially doesn't do a lot of transactions, but may do a lot of high volume transactions, let's think lawyers' offices, let's think things that are, enterprise B2B. If you're selling, solutions to big businesses, then tiered pricing may actually make a lot of sense for you because you have predictable income. You know where your transactions are coming from. If you accept Amex, you probably know what you've been accepting to date to have an idea of what you're going to accept in the future. So tiered pricing works for companies who have a very specific and predictable transaction flow. If you are an organization, though, where it's kind of unpredictable and you don't really know where your transactions are coming from, consumers may have the autonomy to use any card that they want, then tiered pricing may be a roll of the dice for you, and it doesn't make sense. So it truly depends on your business model. It truly depends on how you set up your transactions and how your consumers pay for your goods and services. So as you can see, these different types of pricing models can exist, and I've talked about them being in different processors, but it's also important to know that sometimes these different pricing models can be available at the same processor. And so if you're sitting here thinking, man, Interchange Plus really sounds like the right model for me, call your processor and see if they offer Interchange Plus as a pricing strategy. And you never know, they may be able to reduce your overall fees simply by allowing for you to change the pricing model without ever even changing your processor. So just know, even though we're talking these as individual types of pricing models, a processor may offer these services, and they may offer all three. And it's worth the conversation to help you lower your overall effective rate. So last guy here is the transaction mix will definitely affect which model is best for you. I kind of already touched on this, but as I mentioned, if you have predictable transaction flow, then tiered pricing may be the best solution for you. If you have a high volume of card not present transactions, then flat rate may be your best solution. And if you have a large volume, but you take a mixture or primarily card present, then you may want to look for a processor who offers Interchange Plus models. So just be aware of your transaction mix. And if you don't know what your transaction mix is, that is exactly why Paygent.ai exists. So Paygent.ai is your tool, a free tool to be able to look at your transactions, do a complete analysis so we can help you identify what is your transaction habits. What are these patterns that we're seeing in your transaction flow? Because those patterns will allow for us to identify which processor is the best fit for your unique business. And so please visit Paygent.ai. You can securely upload your transaction statements, and from there, we will provide you with a detailed audit response back that includes not only detail on your unique business, but also who your best fit processor looks like. A little bit more about our audit process. Because these different pricing models are rather confusing, we also take a look and determine maybe it makes sense for you to shift over to a certain type of transaction type or payment processing type. Maybe it makes sense for your business to have two processors. One that is a certain pricing model for some of your transactions and another that is a different. For instance, if you take both in-person and online, we may make a suggestion that you find a processor for your in-person payments that offers Interchange Plus, but then do your online payments with a flat rate processor, because blended will give you the most optimal and best strategy for reducing your overall effective rate. This is why clarity matters, is because if you didn't know that, how would you ever understand if you're overpaying in fees? And Paygent.ai is here to be your sounding board, to be your extension, to make sure that you have someone on your side who is able to say, hey, this is what we recommend, and we believe this is the right solution for you. And again, with these confusing payment processing types and payment processing models, it's really easy to be confusing and to be confused, especially as you're a small business owner who has a lot on your plate and a lot of things that you're juggling. Don't let payment processing be a big unknown that's slowly eating away at your profits. So again, please visit Paygent.ai. We're happy to take a look at your transaction statements so that we can help support your business. And as always, we're here to help in any way possible. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about different pricing models. Look forward to talking to you on our next video.